Welcome to the Bear Archery Podcast. This week I'm joined by Jon Goodwin of Wild Game Freaks. I stumbled upon Wild Game Freaks, which is an Instagram page that promotes hunting. I stumbled upon Wild Game Freaks not too long ago. Me and Jon started messaging back and forth. Turns out we're kindred spirits, and the fact that he's also a Christian and a pastor that is in the space of hunting. And so we just started talking a lot, and I wanted to get him on to kind of talk about the representation that we as hunters give people. So many people say that they don't care about what non-hunters think because they're non-hunters. Who cares? But the sad reality of it is those non-hunters one day might be given the ability to vote on our right to hunt. Ballot box biology. It's not based off of science. It's not based off of research. It's not based off of logic. It's based off of pure emotion. And so I want to represent myself in a way, and I want to represent the hunting community in a way that when those people are given the right to vote, they'll think back and they'll remember, well, I met Dylan Ray one time, and the way that he articulated about hunting, the way that he carried himself as a hunter, the way that he showed the full process, the way that he feeds his family with the meat that he kills, he's not that bad of a guy. And I want them to consider me when they're given the right to vote on whether people should be able to hunt or not. So we talk a whole lot about those things. We talk about the ever-changing laws of gun regulations. Jon is in New York, which is very, very heavily gun regulated. We talk about how fast the culture is changing when it comes to the acceptance of guns. We talk about how to be successful as hunters. We talk about just having a little bit of grit and a little bit of stick-to-itness, if you will, and working hard and understanding and learning animals. It's a really good episode. It's a fun episode. Guys, as always, this episode is brought to you by our good friends over at ScentLock, but I hope you enjoy the conversation with Jon as much as I did.
With over 90 years of innovation, Bear Archery continues pushing toward the goal of founder Fred Bear, making archery accessible for all. Fred believed the history of the bow and arrow were the history of mankind, and everyone should immerse themselves in the outdoor experience. Welcome to the Bear Archery Podcast, where the mission is simple: to hunt, grow, and inspire others.
Guys, I'm a big believer in prioritizing your feet. Your feet should always be a priority, and you should always be considering what's on your feet. If you're in the mountains and you've got blisters and hot spots, you are not going to go as far. You're not going to make it to that next ridge. You're not going to stay on the mountain as long. Ultimately, you're not going to be as successful. If you're sitting in a whitetail stand and your feet are freezing, you're going to get more jittery. You're not going to be as still. You're not going to be as quiet. You're not going to stay as long. Ultimately, you're not going to be able to kill that big buck in the dead of winter. If you're chasing antelope, you've got to be able to be quick and quiet and fast and have comfortable feet. Guys, no matter what you're chasing, no matter the pursuit, no matter the game, your feet should be a priority. I have fallen in love with Schnee boots. I didn't even know how normal hot spots and blisters were in my life until I got a good pair of boots, because I was probably a lot like you. I would run to a Cabela's Bass Pro, and I would buy a pair of $100 boots thinking that I was saving money. But those boots break down faster, and I got to keep buying boots. So guys, don't let a pair of $400 boots keep you from buying good boots, because in the long run, those $100 boots, they add up. Whereas if you spend good money on a good pair of Italian-made, handcrafted boot, they're going to last you for 10, 15 years. They're going to be way more comfortable. You're going to be more successful. Your feet will be more comfortable. You will thank me later. So guys, go check out schnees.com for all of your boots. That's SCHNEES.com. The best boots on planet Earth, Schnee boots. Go check them out. Thank me later. But guys, start prioritizing your feet and get yourself a good pair of boots. All right, Jon. So where did the Wild Game Freaks come from? Like, how was that born?
Well, it actually was born with another guy who I was working with, and we spent a ton of time pouring into this page and just growing it more for fun. And then life happened. He was busy, and I think we were around 16,000 when he said, I'm out. Do your thing. So, because I was doing all the work, he was just kind of behind the scenes, supporting it a little bit. And so it really is born out of just a love of the outdoors, a love of connecting with other folks that love the outdoors. And it's just again, been a fun way to connect with people who share the similar lifestyle. And truthfully, I hunt more than most people I know. So it's given me a chance to connect with serious hunters, because I find that most people I know aren't. Most people in my sphere they don't understand the obsession. They don't get that you spend all year preparing for a few months. And, we don't eat beef in our house because we always have venison, and that's just how we are. So, yeah. So really just that connection point of saying, hey, I love the outdoors. I want to connect with those who love the outdoors, but I also want to do it in a way that is family friendly. I really get kind of fed up, honestly, with the half naked pictures and stuff that, you find on these Instagram pages and different stuff. I want to be able to look at it with my kids sitting next to me. But also I'm a pastor, so there's a faith element that does come through. I don't overtly preach on there as much, although I've hit a bunch of companies up recently because I have a game dinner I'm putting on, in a couple weeks. So really that combo of, loving the outdoors, loving the Lord, and loving people, and just trying to bring it all together in one spot. So, excuse me.
I appreciate that you have a circle of influence that aren't hunters. I was having this conversation with Corey Anderson, MMA fighter, and I admittedly said, my entire circle of friends is hunters. I live in the Midwest. I live in the heart of deer country. Nobody says you're a deer hunter. What is that? Everybody has been around hunting, has hunted before. Their granddad hunted, their dad hunted, whatever. Everybody's familiar with hunting. And then of course, I work in the outdoor space for a living, so all of my coworkers are hunters.
Right.
So admittedly, I don't have a big influence with my everyday peers to the good of hunting. And so I admire people that build an influence around them of people that they can talk about hunting with. Now, obviously I want hunting friends. However, I've kind of felt that need, and obviously we're both pastors, and this is not I'm not going to go on a preaching rant here, but if we want to reach people for Christ, we have to be around people who need Christ. And the same is true with hunting.
Exactly.
If I want to create new hunters, I've got to be around people who don't hunt. And so I've recently just kind of been on that mentality of like, I need to find people who at least, maybe they've been introduced to hunting. Because again, here in Kansas, it's going to be hard to find somebody that says, "What is hunting?" But I need to find somebody who at least has never gotten into the world of hunting. That way, I can start influencing them. So man, I admire that you say that, because it's just kind of been an idea in my head recently of who am I reaching, personally for hunting.
Right. And I think that's why it's key too, that we maintain what's the word I'm looking for here? Oh, well, basically how we carry ourselves as we present hunting really matters. Right. And it's not about making the antis happy, but it's about not giving them ammo.
Oh,
right.
Bingo.
So
yeah, for sure.
So part of what, I used to, basically before videos and reels were a huge thing, right? Everybody's only sharing pictures on Instagram. and my followers would send me their trophies and I would post them, and some would get unhappy with me because I'm like, no, I'm not putting that picture up. You got blood everywhere. Tongues hanging out. And maybe some of your listeners disagree with me on this, and that's fine. But I tried to make sure that every picture was, at least a little bit tasteful and honored the animal. Right. Because I think it's about that too. I think it's important that people know, and you were talking about this in your last show, right? It's important that people know we're not just a bunch of bloodthirsty killers, right? We have respect for the animal, and we need to carry ourselves accordingly. So I think that's important.
So I'm somewhere in the middle. And what I mean by that is, yeah, I'm a killer. Like, I'm going to show you dead animals. Like, I killed them. I took their life. I did not harvest them. I killed this animal.
Right.
However, you're right, dude. Clean up the photos. Like, make them look tasteful, because here's the deal. You have those guys that say they're non-hunters. Who cares what they think? Well, one day those non-hunters might very well be given a right to vote on our behalf as hunters, called ballot box biology. Not based off sound science, but based off pure feelings. Those people have the right to vote on whether we get to hunt or not. So while you're right, like, I'm not going to turn all of them into hunters, but I want them to at least understand what I do, why I do, and how I do it. Because when they are given that chance and the ballot's in front of them, should these people be able to kill deer or not, I want them to remember, go, well, I know that guy Dylan, and the way that he talks about it, the way he articulates about it, the way that he shows the full process of it, the way that he takes the meat and then uses it to feed his family and loved ones and, provide for the community. Maybe it's not all bad. Maybe they're not all bad. And so you're right. I'm not ever going to turn all of them that see a photo of me with a deer into hunters. However, I don't want them to immediately be repulsed by me as a hunter, because I want them 100%. To one day remember what they saw and why they saw it.
Right. And I think it's important for people like Venison Donation Coalition. I don't know if it's where you are, but I mean, feeds millions. Hunters are feeding millions and millions of people, right? We are putting millions and millions and millions of dollars back into our communities for conservation. All this stuff, I really think needs to be at the forefront too of some of the conversations of, and we need to, I don't want to say brag about ourselves, but we need to have these conversations where people hear, oh, wow. And again, I quietly feed people. Right. Myself, I don't typically donate to the coalition. I butcher all my own deer here, but, it's a rare year where I don't give deer away, to people that can fill their freezers with them, So, it's really a way, again, as you connect with the Lord and you connect with the beauty of his creation, that we can also do it in such a way that is a blessing to others around us and the world we live in. I think that's a huge thing. If you take that away, what happens to the national parks? What happens to, the homeless shelters that can't get meat? What happens to, it's going to be a horrific mess, and people are going to realize what important part in our country hunters play, not just at conservation, but on many different levels. So,
yeah, you're absolutely right, man. And that's something that while I want to enjoy hunting, and while I want to just enjoy being out there and chasing wild game, and I don't want all of my time, effort, and mental capacity to go to thoughts like this, we have to, as hunters, start considering more things like this. We have to start considering, how does the public perceive me as a hunter? What is the public, when they see me as a hunter, what do they see? And this is something that obviously when I was a kid growing up, I didn't give a rip about it, man. Like, never even, I just wanted to kill stuff and enjoy killing it.
Yeah.
So much
Right.
to the point where neighbors called the cops one time because I was in the front driveway cleaning ducks. Like, and the old lady just looks out the window and all she sees is blood everywhere, and I'm covered in blood. And, you know, I was just this kid that just enjoyed hunting and just enjoyed killing
Right.
stuff.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and now that I'm to this point in my life, I'm like, man, how do people perceive me as a hunter? Like when they think about
Right.
hunting and I'm the only connection they've ever had to hunting, how do they perceive me? Now, again,
Right.
admittedly, I need to open up that influence to where I am, you know, I am the face of hunting to more people. I understand that, but
Right.
I better make sure I'm representing that culture well. If I'm the only hunter they see, I better make sure I represent us as a community pretty well.
Right. Right. And that's something I think about too, because I have 3 kids, right? So what kind of example am I giving them, of not just how to present hunting to others, but also, passing on, ethics and different things to them so that they do it well. I was so proud of my son a couple years ago. He had a deer out in front of him. It was like 20 yards away, and he'd only killed 1 deer up until that point. And I'm like, take the shot. And he's like, deer walks away. I was like, dude, what are you doing? he's like, I couldn't. He's like, I was just too excited. I was shaking. He's like, I was worried I was going to take a bad shot. And to me, that was a serious win too, because again, I think we talk about how other people see us, not all the blood in the yard, whatever, but also, the pictures of those deer with, arrows sticking out of the rear ends and all that type of stuff too also matters, right? Conservation and ethics is, hand in hand, in my opinion. And, I've got three kids. One, I don't know that he'll ever hunt. He just gets grossed out by blood, and that's okay. But he also lives in a house that he loves venison. And I'm like, dude, you're going to have to figure that out. I'm not going to feed you your whole life. But, and I have a son that is obsessed with hunting. And I have a daughter who she's kind of here and there. She's hunted with me, but never gotten anything. She's now in college. But again, I think it's so important that I instill in them a respect for the animal that we pursue, right? So again, so that they in turn can pass that down, right? I don't want to raise a bunch of just people that don't care. I mean, again, as someone that's full time in ministry, and I know this is a ministry show, but part of what I consider is that everybody I come in contact with is someone I have to be on mission with, right? It's an opportunity for me to talk to them about Christ. And they're to see how a Christian's supposed to live. But the same is true in my community. Everybody knows I'm a hunter. So when they come in contact with, I don't want them thinking about me as just some dude that's, doesn't care about trespassing signs and doesn't care about taking bad shots and is the guy that unloads his gun every time he sees an animal. Like, I think it really matters, right? If we're going to affect change, people have to see us living in a manner that's worth following first. So
that's another thing, man. Like, I don't think people give enough credit to how their kids are seeing hunting and then communicating about hunting. Because man, kids tell it like it is. And, one time I took my son out hunting with me and I shot a deer that maybe I shouldn't have shot at. Now this is a 4-year-old, at the time was 4. And this deer was pretty hard quartering away. But I still thought, man, I can slip it right in there, and made a shot. The deer turned just enough, and the fletchings looked like they were out like by the butt. I mean, it wasn't a bad shot.
Yeah.
It was back of the liver probably.
Right.
But just the way the deer turned and ran, it looked like the fletchings were, so far back that it was like on the butt. And so my son started saying, yeah, dad shot a deer in the butt. And I was like, well, buddy, listen, like, even if that were true, like, even if I would have made a horrible shot, we're not going to go to school and tell people that. Like, we're going to, and I'm not trying to like look cool. I don't want your friends to think I never mess up. This isn't a pride thing.
Right.
But this is a, how do we portray hunting thing? This is
Right.
Heaven forbid your preschool teacher has never heard about a hunter before, never seen a hunter before. And the first thing they hear about a hunter was, yeah, dad tried to shoot a deer and hit it in the butt. Like, we don't want to tell people these things.
Right.
We ended up actually finding the deer and like I said, back of liver, pushed it in there just far back enough to where it looked really bad though. But yeah, I'm like, son, we don't want to tell people that. Like, we just don't want to portray that to the community. Because kids tell it like it is, and they're going to go to school and tell it like it is. So you need to be teaching your kids the truth behind hunting. Yeah,
100%. 100%. And, now I'm at the point where I'm sending my kids out to hunt by themselves, so I need to trust that they are, not just telling how it is when they're little, but now they're doing it the right way now that they're older, because that's how they've been trained. And, one of the things I always told my son, sorry, I got something on my screen there. I told my son, I said, look, here's the deal. If you have any hint in your brain, if you think I might be able to kill it, don't let the arrow go. Don't pull the trigger. If you can't say, I know I can kill it.
Right.
Right. Again, respect the animal. It eliminates a lot of those issues. So, I think I've tried to hammer that with my kids. And unfortunately, I don't know that we see that sometimes in our culture, our hunting culture, our hunting world. I find dead deer every year. That never get recovered until found a nice dead head this year at my in-laws. 20 yards from a stand I was hunting, and I'm like, would have loved to see him alive. Somebody shot him and he just died on the edge of a swamp. So yeah, it's just I think that stuff's so important, especially in a world that's really gotten unfriendly to the hunting world. So,
guys, I'm an arrow junkie. I love arrows, and I have found a fondness for deer crossing archery. Everybody makes a good arrow. I'm not saying that anybody out there makes a bad arrow, but what really sets deer crossing archery apart is when I call them, I'm going to get the owner on the phone. I'm going to get the guy that's building my arrows on the phone, and they're going to walk me through a complete custom build. They're not shipping me a box of arrows that they ship out to everybody. I'm going to pick my knot colors, my fletching colors, my wrap colors, the fletching configuration I want on the arrows. Not only that, I'm going to walk him through my setup. I'm going to walk him through what I'm looking to get out of the setup. I'm going to tell him total arrow length I want to be hitting, total arrow weight I want to be hitting, total insert-outsert weight I want to be hitting, FOC, and he's going to custom build a set of arrows and send them to me. My arrows aren't going to be best for you. Your arrows aren't going to be best for me. We need custom arrows. Deer Crossing Archery builds those arrows custom for you, and they always perform. Their silencer shaft is my favorite arrow on planet Earth. I've shot 40 plus animals with that arrow. It always performs. It always blows through the animal. I always get great penetration. It's a micro diameter shaft. They do have a full line of shafts. The new Rupture arrow is a phenomenal arrow. I shot a deer with it this year in Missouri. I love their arrows. Guys, I would highly encourage you to check out Deer Crossing Archery, because you don't have to go to a box store and buy a set of arrows that are just made from the factory. You can get arrows custom made for you that are going to work best for you and your setup. Guys, use code Hunting101 to get a discount at Deer Crossing Archery. I would highly encourage you to check them out. They are phenomenal. So what is the cultural acceptance of hunting like in a place like New York? Like when you walk into the grocery store and you're wearing camo.
Yeah.
I mean, does everybody just look at you like you got, something growing out of your chest or what? I mean,
No, well, so I live in Western New York, so I'm in Niagara County, which is agriculture mostly, right? Apple trees, cornfields. I'm sitting on a piece of property. Right behind my property is a cornfield. I live in a small country town, so nobody here is too worried about that. So I think it's pretty widely accepted where I am. But I'm trying to think. Like, everybody knows people that hunt, right? So
right.
my kids all have friends that hunt. Again, that's part of the. We live in the country, so we live in a small country town. So that's kind of, and truthfully, we live in an area that has tons and tons of deer. So I mean, I'll shoot 5-6 deer or more right around where we live. That's without ever really going anywhere if I don't want to go anywhere. So yeah, so I would say right here it's pretty accepted. I'm trying to think other parts of we lived I was a youth pastor for 4 years, early 2000s ish. Again, lived in a little country town, but we were just south of a very liberal city that I would say they would probably look at you like you had two heads if you showed up in camo. But yeah, so I don't really see that. Yeah, certainly as a state, we're very liberal. We have other issues.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not necessarily worried about someone looking at me that way. I got the stickers on the truck and shotgun shells in my door, whatever. But issues now are they're just oppressive with gun regulation and
oh my gosh,
even ammo purchasing and whatever. I mean, yeah,
the amount of times my social media has gotten shut down because of a gun is unreal. And I'm like, you guys
crazy.
know that I'm not promoting school shootings. I'm not saying, hey, I'm about to go bomb this place. I posted a picture with a gun in it and my account gets shut down. What? Like,
that's crazy.
It's so crazy, dude. And I grew up, I grew up in Arkansas, man. And I want to say it was a different time. I graduated high school. Oh, well, more than 12 years ago now. I graduated high school 12 years ago, and quite literally that was a different time, usually when we say it was a different time, we're talking, way back in the day, but with how fast our world has moved, that's a different time, man. I grew up rolling into high school with the shotgun in the truck because you're going to shoot ducks after school. I grew up, the principal saw your knife in your pocket and he's like, hey, make sure to not whip that thing out, keep it in your pocket. And I'm like, you got it, boss.
Yeah.
Like it quite literally was a different time. And now, man, we are so choked out. Like as a community, we're so choked out without, we say we have free speech. We say that we're 2A, but boy, we sure don't act like it. Like we sure don't treat people like it. I mean, man.
Yeah, it's gotten crazy because New York State is one of the most restrictive states in the country for guns and where you can carry a handgun, whatever. In this past year, they actually, and this ticked me off a lot. If you want to buy ammo, get this. They have to do a background check on you now. And you pay for it. It's like $3. I'm like, are you kidding me? So basically, I live in the corner of the state where I have friends that, go to Pennsylvania once a month, or they go to Ohio and they just bypass it. And unfortunately, it's hurting the local gun shops. And they tried to pass legislation that muzzleloaders had to pass a background check, but the background check system that the federal government has doesn't have a category for muzzleloaders. So I was talking to a local gun shop owner, just last week, and she told me she basically had all these guns she couldn't sell for months because nobody knew what to do, and she didn't want to get shut down. So she's like, it really hurt me. And, it's just stupid stuff, where again, so people that are listening that live in a state that has tons and tons of freedom, I mean, you gotta hear this stuff. Like, yeah, they are never going to outlaw it, I don't think. But what they're going to do is they're going to restrict it to the point where, guess what? I can't buy ammo. And they've already done that.
And then they're going to know exactly. Then they're going to know
Wow.
exactly how much ammo you got. They're going to know exactly what caliber of ammo you got. They're going to know everything about you as a gun owner. And man, I remember I went on a bear hunt in Maine, and we went to Niagara Falls. I wanted to go into New York City for the only reason. I didn't want to go there for any other reason other than to see where How I Met Your Mother was filmed. That's all I wanted to see. But anyways, I didn't go into New York City, but we went across New York, and I told my wife we're going on a bear hunt. So I had a rifle with me. I had a pistol with me. I had a whole bunch of ammo with me. I had some tannerite with me just for a good time. I'm like, you better hope, baby, we don't get pulled over. Like, otherwise you might be a single woman, I might be in prison.
Yeah. Don't. Yeah. You don't want to advertise bringing a handgun into New York. Cause that's the other thing. So I can get, so I have to have a pistol permit for carry. I have a full carry permit. But New York State does not reciprocate any other state's permits. So meaning if you have a permit in Arkansas, Pennsylvania, Florida, wherever for your handgun, you can't come into New York. Other states allow it, but New York State is one of the only states in the country that says, no, we are not reciprocal. It really, they're just, they're trying to keep them out. They're trying to, they're turning honest people into criminals too. Our pistol permit system now, you have to renew it every so many years, but they don't remind you when it's due. They'll remind you if you need to, get your registration updated on your truck, but they won't remind you if your handgun permit's up. So now all of a sudden you got a dozen handguns that aren't legal. So it's just, we have to be so careful, man. I mean, it matters, right? This stuff matters. And typically, unfortunately, it doesn't go backwards. Right. So, so what does hunting look like in a few years? I don't know. Like here in New York in particular, I like to hunt with, I hunt with everything. So, but handgun as an example, am I going to be able to do that? It's gotten crazy. And it's, they seem to pass these laws in the middle of the night too. So it's like, no, and I think most people feel like their votes don't count. So a lot of people don't vote because the state's so liberal. It's just a dangerous slope, so yeah, not good.
Well, man. And that's why I'm a bow hunter. That's why if you enjoy hunting and you don't bow hunt, man, you're going to have to one day, I think, because gun laws are going to get so ridiculous that, it's going to be hard to get ammo. It's going to be hard to buy guns. It's going to be hard to take your guns into the state you want to hunt in. So that's why I'm a bow hunter. And not to get off on a crazy tangent about guns, but and guys, I get it. Like bad things happen with guns. I know that the Kansas City, parade and the shootings, it's horrible. Yeah. However, taking the guns away from the good people is not going to stop the bad people from having guns. Read the story of Cain and Abel in the Bible. Death by a rock. God didn't ban all the rocks. God didn't say, well, we're going to kill people with rocks. We better get rid of all the rocks. That's not how it works. Yeah. Why? Because if you take away guns, people are going to use other things to kill people. That's just how it works, man. So yeah, I mean, I don't mean to get off on a gun tangent, but it's also something that, it's also something that I don't talk about enough probably. Get out and vote. And this goes back to the whole, the same thing about ballot box biology. When people are given the opportunity to vote on gun issues, it's purely emotion. It's an emotional vote. It's not logical. It's not scientifical. It's not research-based. It's 100% emotion. Guns are bad. I saw somebody get killed by a gun. I heard about somebody get killed by a gun. That kid in the school was shot by a gun. Ban them all. It's purely emotion. So it's, again, and if we don't talk about it in a logical way, in a research-based way, in a way that makes people go, oh, yeah, you're right. Like, that does make sense. Then who will? Then who will?
Well, right. For 100%. And, but back what you said before that too, like, I think bow hunting's where it's at anyway.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
Yeah. It's, dude, it's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, I think, play off that statement of bow hunting. Man, people that hunt, that don't bow hunt, oh man, they don't even know what they're missing.
You're missing it.
Especially here, like the rut is deer in bow season. Like, of course, if you've never been there and heard the silence of the woods where a buck is grunting as it's chasing a doe, and it's just a beautiful thing, man. I don't. And I'm convinced you learn, was it Fred Bear made that comment, right? You learn more about, I forget how it was. There's a statement about how you learn more. Is it more in, 1 month of bow hunting than in a lifetime of gun hunting, or something crazy like that? I'm not even close. I totally butchered it. I'm sorry. This is Bear Archery podcast. So, but anyway, I think it was never get invited back. Don't
worry, I've butchered many a quote has been butchered by me.
Hey, when you talk in front of people, that's what happens. So, but it's, but so true though. Like, I mean, you think of like just learning how to pattern deer. You don't really learn that during gun season. Learning how to, how they travel, learning their behavior, to watch them undisturbed, is just, I've gotten into videotaping, and I videotape a lot more deer than I shoot because I just love to study their behavior. It's just an amazing thing. And the more I've studied the deer and studied the woods, the more effective I am with my weapon in the woods. I mean, it's
the Fred Bear quote you were looking for. I had to Google it.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it.
Okay, good. I'm glad you had to Google it.
You can learn more. You can learn more about hunting deer with a bow and arrow in a week than a gun hunter will learn in his entire life.
Okay, there you go. In a week. I said a month, didn't I? Yeah.
But still holds true. And that's why, that was, a lot of people, and for those of you that don't understand why he said that or doesn't make sense to you, well, with a gun, the hunt is over when the deer's at 200 yards. Or 300 yards, 400 yards, however far you can shoot with a gun. But with a bow, that hunt is just starting at 200 yards. Like, if I see a deer at 200 yards, that hunt has just began. It hasn't even started yet. And you take another step. You take that a step further. Man, I wanted to just learn everything I could learn about deer. Well, with a compound bow, when they get inside 30 yards, that hunt's over. Put a tag on it. Let's go home. And so I made a switch to traditional archery, shooting a stick bow, because inside 30, that hunt's just begun. Like, I've got to get you another 10 yards, 12 yards, 14 yards closer. And you just learn so much about the animal. You learn so much about their characteristics, the way they move, the way they, the way they respond to things, the way they interact with each other when you're watching them close the distance from 30 to 15. Like, you just learn so much. And so I would encourage you, even if you are a gun hunter, or even if you're on a gun hunt, like even if you're a bow hunter, but you're on a gun hunt, I challenge you to take time and study that animal. Even if it gets to 200 yards and you can shoot the shot. If there's another buck coming, stop and wait to see how they interact. If there's a doe about to run by that buck, stop and wait to see how he interacts to that. Learn the animal. Like, don't just shoot it and go home. Take time and understand, well, what is he doing when he does that? Why does he keep licking his nose? Why does he keep, every time that coyote runs by, how does he act? Every time a doe runs by, how does he act? Every time another buck cruises by, how does he act? Rather than just, he's at 200, hunts over. Take time and learn more about the animal. And that's where bow hunters, I believe, get the advantage, because they just spend more time watching them and learning and understanding how they respond to things and how they interact with each other and the noises they make and the places they go. And so just take time and learn the animal. That's all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of what bow hunting did for me is that I gun hunt like I bow hunt, right? Which has caused me to question why in the world I carry a gun. I've had a few years, I'll shoot 5 or 6 deer, and the farthest deer away is 30 yards, even during gun season, because now I want them to keep walking in. I want to set up in a place where they're going to be close. I want to be on top of them, because it's a rush. There's just, and to me though, that's hunting, right? And I don't want to discount anybody that's killing a deer at 200 yards. I've killed deer at 200 yards. Don't get me wrong. But if you're on the right property, anybody can kill a deer 200 yards. If you're on the right property, not everybody can kill a deer under 30. I mean, that it takes woodsmanship, right? It takes, you could, I don't want to, every once in a while you get lucky, right? There's dumb luck that does happen on occasion. But the biggest deer I have killed, multiple, the larger deer that I kill are typically a result of a lot of hard work and a lot of planning and a lot of studying of the land I'm going to hunt. Not just studying of the deer, studying of the land. Sometimes that's done with, something like Onyx, looking at terrain features from a satellite. Sometimes it's boots on the ground. I mean, boots on the ground, you can't beat it, but can't always do that. But yeah, it's just, again, I think, that time and putting in the work. I had a kid a few years ago ask me, he's like, goes to my church. He said, Pastor Jon, how is it you always get deer? I said, well, I don't always get deer. I said, but I hunt more than you do. When he looked at me, I said, no, I'm serious. I put more time in than most people I know.
Yeah.
Because there's zero substitute for time and hard work. It's not just time in the woods. It's time shooting your bow in your backyard. It's time, shooting your gun. If it's a gun, it's time, understanding how weather patterns affect the animals in your region. All this stuff makes you more proficient, more effective. And again, you got to be that much more on your game when it comes to bow hunting. What's the wind doing? Am I careful with my scent? I see guys all the time. They'll hop out of the truck at the gas station and run into the gas station, wearing their hunting boots and their hunting gear. And it drives me nuts. I want to yell at them every time. If I'm honest, I'm like, what are you doing? You're smelling up the woods like gasoline and gas station pizza, but again, I think you learn that stuff, some people don't apparently, but
see, we're going to disagree here because
okay.
Guys, there's not many things that I'm going to tell you to stop and do right now. One of those things is to stop and go join Pope and Young right now. It's $45 for the entire year to be a member of Pope and Young. And what that does for you is that helps to ensure your rights as a bow hunter. Pope and Young is constantly fighting for your rights as a bow hunter. They are the national bow hunting organization in North America. They exist to protect your rights as a bow hunter. They are all the time going before state legislators to fight for your rights and to continue protecting your rights as a bow hunter. The record book exists in the first place because somewhere between us and the Indians, people had lost sight that bow hunting was a lethal way of harvesting big game. And so Glenn St. Charles and his group of cohorts, they started the record book so they could take it to different states and show that bow hunting is, in fact, a ethical way of harvesting big game. So guys, don't get caught in Pope and Young only being a record book. They are your voice for bow hunters, and there's power in numbers. So I would highly encourage you to join today because we need to stand together to protect our rights. Also, what you might not know is if you've bought a Bear bow, you can go and register that bow, and you're actually going to get a free Pope and Young membership. Bear Archery is such a believer in the mission of Pope and Young and what they stand for and what they do to protect our rights that they are going to buy your first year's membership. So if you've bought a bow, go online and register that bow, and you're going to get a free year's membership to Pope and Young. But guys, I would encourage you, stop right here, right now, and go join Pope and Young because we have to protect our rights as bow hunters. You know, I used to be a scent freak, and I mean scent freak. You know, I would be the guy that, oh my gosh, would go above and beyond. And I just over the years, I learned no matter what I do, no matter how hard I work, if that deer gets downwind of me, he smells me. Like there's no substitute for that. There's no cover for that. And so I've become very, very, very laxed on scent control. Like I don't worry about it like I used to. Now, to an extent, I do agree with you. Like I'm not going to go get gas. I'm not going to go get gas in my hunting clothes, but I'll walk into the gas station and eat my dinner, you know, and grab a piece of pizza or a, you know, whatever. But I don't know. I've learned that, hey, no matter what, like if that deer gets downwind of me, it's done. Like it's donezo. Now I practiced.
No, you're not wrong.
And I practice scent control to an extent, but I practice it as an insurance, not as a reliable overcoming a deer's nose. What I mean by that is like, yeah, you're right. I'm not gonna add scent, and that's why I say I don't go get gas. I also don't spray on cologne. I'm not gonna add scent, and I'm gonna try to take away as much scent as I possibly can. Like I'm gonna take a shower. If I'm gonna take a shower, it's gonna be in scent-free soap. If I'm gonna wash my clothes, it's gonna be in scent-free soap. I don't add scent to myself. And that's more of a wind insurance thing. So if the deer gets downwind of me, you know, I have that extra 2.5 seconds to get a shot off rather than, so that's just me though.
No, I don't disagree with you. But again, I think that's a great way to put it, right? That you don't add scent. I think that's a great way to put it. And again, I have the ability. Well, I just lost hunting property right across the road from my house, which is very painful because I'm sitting in a chair and I can see it. I can see it out my front window. I've killed a lot of deer over there. But anyway, I had that property there. I have a little bit of property that I live on. I have other property I can walk to out back. So part of what I am able to do is I can hang my gear on my porch. It almost never even goes in my truck, right? My boots stay outside the entirety of deer season. My camo stays outside. So I'm not going to say I sit there and half the time, I don't even wash it if I get a deer unless it's really, really bloody. I just put it back on the porch. I have a little rack I have made up. It all hangs there. Gets a little messy through the deer season. My wife starts to grumble and say, you know, it looks like a homeless person lives on the back porch. That's how I know I got to clean it up. But so I use, you know, some scent control products, but a lot of what I do is just natural, letting it be in the outdoors.
Bingo.
So
now boots, going back to boots, boots are something that I am like a crack fiend on because deer are literally smelling where you step.
100%.
So I'm strict on no leather on my boots. I don't take any leather into the deer woods because leather holds scent. I want a full rubber boot. I don't want a neoprene upper. I want a full rubber boot because rubber is not going to hold scent. So, and then, you're right. Those boots don't come inside. Those boots stay in the truck. Those boots stay, you know, in the garage. Those boots stay, you know, wherever where mama's not lighting candles and running Scentsies. Because those boots are on the ground that the deer are smelling. That they are touching, they are leaving a scent path. And that's something too that I think that would play a big role is if people would just consider their scent footprint. What I mean by that is not just your literal footprint, but if you thought about it as everything that I touch, I'm leaving scent on. How big is the footprint of scent that I'm leaving? And if you were just cognizant of the fact that when I'm going in, I don't want to touch the trees. I don't want to rub this. I don't want to rub that. I don't want to bend over and tie my boot or, whatever, wipe my hands on. Just think about, where am I leaving scent on my way in, on my way out, while I'm sitting here? Think about those things, and it makes scent control a lot more of a non-factor, if you will.
Yeah. And we've all seen it. Those of us who hunt close to deer have watched them cross our tracks, and they're gone.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They know something's been there. It doesn't belong here. And they won't even blow it. They'll just leave fast.
Yeah.
And every once in a while you get one that's a little dumb, and I think it's they're maybe a 1.5-year-old buck or a spike. Dumbest deer in the woods. I think the 1.5-year-olds are maybe dumber than the button bucks sometimes, but they'll give you, I don't shoot those deer anymore, but they'll give you 3 chances sometimes because they just don't know what the heck they're doing. And again, and the rut covers mistakes too. Sometimes you'll have a deer that's so excited about a doe that they're doesn't really matter, but that's rare. And why hurt your chances before you get a chance? It's kind of my thought. So even like what I eat, like if I eat something in the woods, I'm very careful with what that is, because I don't want to be leaving all this scent, and because I don't know. Do you use much as far as scent lures and stuff yourself, or no?
Not a ton. Maybe to my demise. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it doesn't work, but again, I view everything, even your mock scrapes and your Tink 69. I view all of those as adding scent to the woods.
Right.
And I want to add as little as I possibly can. Like I want to take in as little scent as I possibly can, and I want to leave as little scent as I possibly can. I don't want to add scent.
Right.
So again, I'm not big on like trying to cover everything up. I just don't want to add scent.
Right. Yeah. And I've been kind of back and forth on deer lures and stuff. I have buddies that swear by it. I have, a friend that owns a company, and I've used his stuff for years, whatever. But more of, I've got a mock scrape with a camera on it that I never hunt over, and because my thing is, if you've done the homework, why do you need to add more scent to the woods? If I'm setting myself up in a place where I know deer are going to travel, there's already scrapes, there's already rubs, there's fresh sign on the ground. I know there's deer in the area. Why would I want to mess that up?
Right.
My goodness, I need to do a better job of setting up somehow and getting in a place where those deer are going to travel, because, I think sometimes people are so focused on getting a deer to go to their, one tree stand they have, that they fail to see that, number one, their stand's in the wrong spot, but, they just got to do more work. Like, you're actually making a mess of the woods. You're walking out there to freshen your scrape up. Before cell cameras, you're also walking out there to pull the card on your camera, and deer are watching you do it every time. And you do it at the same time every day because you get out of work at 4:30, and and then you wonder why you don't see anything. So, it's really not that hard to figure out sometimes. I think we overthink it, and then we mess it up for ourselves. So,
well, and going back to what you said just a minute ago, killing a big deer by accident happens sometimes, and I have a very unique opportunity given that, I work for Pope and Young, I get to talk to every new world record holder. Anybody that breaks a new world record,
That's cool.
I get to talk to that person. And the amount of times that somebody says, I didn't have any idea the deer was in the area. First time I ever saw him. It was the first hunt of the day. Yeah, it was the first day of the year. I just walked out and found this world record. It happens. I've actually heard it quite a few times. However, how I classify a good hunter is not somebody who has killed the biggest or the best or, a new world record, or, you look at somebody and just because they've killed a new world record, I don't think, man, they're a good hunter. I think about a good hunter as somebody who consistently kills animals, who consistently can go out. I can drop you in the middle of somewhere you've never been before, and you're going to come out with a dead animal. Your guys like Chuck Adams, your guys like Frank Noskas, your guys like Alan Bolin, those guys, I can take them and they've never seen this property before. They've never been to this country before. And I can drop them off and say, bring me a black buck, bring me a Sika blacktail, bring me a cow's deer, bring me, whatever it is, bring me a Roosevelt's elk, bring me, and they're going to go out and find a way to kill that animal. That's how I classify a good hunter. Why? Because it goes exactly back to what we've been talking about. Those people have studied animals. They know the characteristics of animals. They know what they're going to do, why they're going to do it, how they're going to do it. And they're simply just going to work hard at it. They're simply going to go out and bust their tail until they do it. And that's why people don't understand how Chuck Adams can continually do it. Well, he goes to Alaska and he doesn't tell his wife, I'll be home in 2 weeks. He tells his wife, I'll be home when I've punched my tags. That's when I'll come home. And whether that takes 32 days or whether that takes 10 days, I'm not leaving until I kill my animals. That's how he works. When he killed the new world record last year, he spent 28 days on the mountain before he shot a deer. 28 days in a tent alone on a mountain before he killed his deer. That's just somebody who's willing to work until they get it done. And that's just, you take your guys like Alan Bolin, and Alan, says, I spent 71 days on the mountain chasing sheep and I've passed up X amount of legal rams, but I'm looking for that giant and I'm not going to quit until I find him. Like, those are the guys that I consider to be the best hunters I know, because they're consistently killing animals. And it comes down to two things: learning the animal and then just putting in the hard work. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of people don't want to put the hard work in, right? I mean, because hard work means, when I shifted from shooting younger deer to, all right, I'm going to go, I've done enough of that, right? To where I'm going to start shooting mature deer, right? And some of it was trial and error, right? I didn't grow up in a home that hunted. So I had to kind of figure it out and, learn a lot of things on my own in the woods. And I messed up. I have more stories of mess up than success, but now I killed, I don't even know, so many deer. And I think that's a big part of it. It's like, it's raining outside. I don't want to get up. Well, guess what? Successful hunters also hunt in the rain. Oh, it's snowing outside. Well, guess what? You better have some warm weather gear. It's, it's fog, whatever it is. And that's something I've found that really has helped me over the years, is that I was willing to, initially, I wouldn't say I was a great hunter, but I was willing to outwork everybody I hunted with. I remember one morning I had some friends, they were going to come out to hunt a place I lived, and, they called, they're like, yeah, we won't be there. It's only 3 degrees out and it's windy. And I was like, okay. They're like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, I'm hunting. So, that's just, that's just what you do. And again, because I did that, it put, I had hours and hours and hours and hours and hours in the field. And then it was like, when you start to think like the animal that you're pursuing, it's amazing. Like, this is what it's going to do. This is how it's going to react. And that's not a thing that you accidentally stumble upon. It's a moment in time that happens, I think, when you have put in the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, right? Yeah. So it kind of, for me, I like I said, I think if I did anything right in my journey as a hunter, and again, I'm not a professional hunter. I'm a guy that loves to hunt. I found success. I have a large Instagram page. I mean, that's that. So what? But more importantly, my family eats venison 365 days a year. So we don't run out. And that's always the plan when I start my hunting season. I want to grill some backstraps in August. Well, if I'm going to do that, I better punch some tags, man. And but again, you got to put the time in to do it. So, and there's a lot more meat on big backstraps than on little ones. So,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. No, an unpopular opinion here, and this might make some people mad, and I could care less. If I can hunt deer in Kansas, I can hunt deer in New York. And if I learned deer in Oklahoma, then I've learned them in Texas. And if I've learned deer in California, then I've learned them in Florida. And now listen, I understand tactics change. I get that. I understand that in Kansas, there's not a tree in every field to hang a tree stand. Got to use ground. I know all of that. I've hunted in, Texas where there are no trees and you got to brush a blind in like crazy. I know that. But here's the thing. Whether I'm in Texas or whether I'm in New York or whether I'm in Florida, whether I'm in Kansas, deer, the needs of a deer are the exact same. The desires of a deer are the exact same. Do they come at different times? Yes. Deer are not rutting in Florida the same time they're rutting in Kansas. I know that. However, during the rut, that deer is driven by one thing, sex. Outside of the rut, that deer is driven by one thing, food. And they need shelter. That's the only things they need. They need shelter, they need food, and in the rut, they need sex. That's it.
Yeah.
And if you think about deer in a common sense way, like if I'm going to, and listen, guys, it goes back to like carbo loading. You hear carbo loading, marathon runners carbo load the night before a big race. They're going to consume a whole lot of carbs to get ready for the race. The same is true with the rut. The deer are going to be hitting those high, those dense food sources to gear up for the rut, to get ready for the rut. And then if you think about a marathon runner post run or, a power lifter post powerlifting meet, they've given everything they've got. The first thing they do is go replenish and eat. So the same thing is true for the deer after the rut. My favorite time, if you say, Dylan, you got one day to kill a deer, it's going to be late December when it's freezing cold outside and dumping snow. Why? Because that deer has just got through a hard rut and he needs now to go replenish food sources. So if I sit on a food source, a late, a winter wheat food source, or if I've left standing beans, I can guarantee you those deer are going to be coming in there. Why? Because they have to replenish the fat stores. That's where they're going to be at. They've expended everything they've had over a hard rut. That's where they're going to be. So if you think about deer, man, if I learn to kill them and I learn the characteristics and the mannerisms in Kansas, they're going to be the same in Texas. They're going to happen different times of year. I'm going to have to use different tactics to do it. But, and that goes back to, I can drop you anywhere and you can figure out how to do it. If you drop Chuck Adams somewhere, he's going to kill an animal. Why? Because he's learned the animal. And it might take him a day or two to figure out, are they rutting here or are they not? Are they, in post rut or are they just getting the tail end of rut? Are they, is it pre-rut or are we haven't gotten there yet? It's going to take him a little bit to learn that. But once he learns what stage they're in, he's got them, because he's learned the characteristics of the deer in that stage of life all over the world. So man, it comes down to two things, learning the species and then just hard work.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And it's funny because I remember a few years ago when I've lived in our place 16 years, and really that's when I really started to hunt hard because I had access. All of a sudden, I had access where I hunted some before, but also I got into bow hunting, right? So that changed my world. And I would watch these deer all summer, and then the first week of October, they'd all disappear. And at the time, bow season it didn't open until October 15th here. Now it opens October 1st. Well, I know where they go.
Yeah.
because I know where the property is that has all the oak trees.
The October
just
lull does
exactly
not
right.
exist. Like
No,
people talking about the October lull. Fake.
They are hammering acorns, right? Or
Yeah.
acorns, depending on where you're from, right?
Acorns.
They're hammering them. Okay, we say acorns, but got to respect the host here. But so
I live in
now what do I
Kansas.
do?
We say acorns, but where I grew up, it was
Okay, yeah.
acorns.
So I have access to this property now where all these nut trees are. So I'll hike, a mile and a half into my block, and I'll set up. And you know what? Every year I kill a deer in there. Because I like to get like I said, I want to have venison all year. So I'll kill a doe pretty early in the season. I almost always kill them with acorns in their mouth. And so and then and there's, I know where the bedding area is. So again, first week in November, I hunt opposite sides of it. I'll hunt outside of it, whatever, and bucks will come cruising through. And again, that's, hey, where's the food source? Where's the bedding? What happens when there's bedding and there's does in it? Bucks want sex, right? So they're going to be cruising it. So yeah, it's.
Well, again, if you just think about it,
in the world.
If you just think about it logically, you've seen these deer all summer long. Why have you seen these deer all summer long? Well, because there's standing greens in the field.
Yeah.
So they're going to be out in the greens. October comes and there's acorns dropping, and all of a sudden you're not seeing any deer, and you're like, man, dude, it's the October lull. No, they're in the hardwoods eating all the acorns. Like they've come off the fields where you've been seeing them driving down the road every day, and they're back in the hardwoods eating on acorns. And they're actually easier now to kill than they were on the field. So get into the hardwoods and get in the acorns in and amongst them, and you'll kill them. I got a question. Have you stumbled upon our Cook Wild series? Because I think you would get a kick out of it.
Your Cook Wild series? No.
So the last Friday of every month, I am joined by one of America's top 10 chefs. He was on the Food Network and named one of America's top 10 chefs. And he takes wild game and he makes just crazy recipes out of it.
Nice.
And then we recap on the podcast and he tells you how to make it. So on the last Friday of every month, tune into our Cook Wild series, man, because I think you'd be a prime candidate for trying some recipes.
I think I heard, actually, you know what? Now that you say that, I think I heard, did you do lasagna recently?
Venison lasagna. Yep. Maybe. Last Friday.
Okay. Yeah, I heard that. So yeah, we had venison lasagna last week. Our meatballs are all venison, lasagna, hamburgers, like grilled sausage, breakfast sausage. Like we eat venison multiple days a week. But yeah, no, I'll definitely check it out because I'm always looking for new recipes.
Speaking
it's
of that,
my kid's favorite meat. It's funny. Yes, sir.
No, go ahead.
No, my kids think that beef tastes funny. That's how much venison we eat.
Good for your kids, man.
Their favorite. My daughter, who's almost 20 years old, her favorite meat in the world is a steak off a nice backstrap. So
nice.
She wants a. So
speaking of that, if you are a fan of the Cook Wild series, we now have podcast apparel. It's on my website, typicalsportsman.com. We've got podcast apparel. We've got Cook Wild apparel. We've got our 0% vegan. We've got 100% meat-based shirts. Just some fun stuff. We've got the Butcher Bear on there. So guys, head over to typicalsportsman.com. Check out all the wild game food shirts. I like it. That's awesome. That's awesome. So guys, go check out all the apparel. We've got all the Cook Wild apparel, all the podcast apparel, typicalsportsman.com. I hope to see Mr. Jon repping some on the Wild Game Freaks page pretty soon. Guys, it is not often that a product comes around that is just a game changer. I introduce you to the Paper Tuner from papertuner.com. This is a game-changing paper tuner design that is designed from the ceiling down to help you tune your compound, your recurve, your longbows. Best news of all, it's going to take up 0 floor space, and it only costs $75. This is engineered so it's easy to use, very quick to set up and take down with magnetic quick disconnects. It takes you a couple seconds to hang it up, to shoot through your paper, and then take it back down and hang it back on the wall, taking up 0 room in your garage, your shop, your basement, wherever you're tuning bows. There's no bulky equipment. It's easy to use. It's fast to use. It's going to cost you $75, and everything that you need to hang it and use it is going to be in one box. It took me about 5 minutes to hang this initially, and then it takes a couple seconds to put it up and take it down anytime I want to shoot through paper. Guys, if you do any kind of work on your bows, or if you just want to ensure that your bows are shooting as good as they possibly can, I would highly, highly encourage you to get a paper tuner from papertuner.com. It's the best design I have ever seen for a paper tuner. So I would highly encourage you, papertuner.com. Go pick one up. Very easy to set up, very easy to use, zero floor space, very quick, very effective. And one of the coolest parts, in my opinion, all around the frame of the paper tuner, it's got what you need to see to know how to move your rest or how to tune your bow in order to take out the tears that you are getting. Guys, go check out papertuner.com. It's a phenomenal design. It's going to change the way you paper tune your bows. Papertuner.com. Get yourself a paper tuner. Guys, thank you so much for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure, Jon. Continue doing what you're doing, man. Continue reaching people for the good of hunting. You guys, thanks for listening, and y'all have a fantastic week.
All right. Thank you, Dylan. Appreciate it, man.